Linux OTC. Welcome to episode 12. We're your hosts. I'm Bill.
I'm Leo.
Oh,
I did it extra long.
crap.
I did it extra long because that's it.
Yeah, we needed to make up space because a sharp eye would see that we are a man short, and we literally found out that was going to be the case, like right at showtime.
Right, yeah.
But as they say, the show must go on. So here we are. We soldier on, the two of us.
You said
Might be a short show.
What did you say? Eagle eye, sharp eye, sharp eye. You said sharp eye.
Sharp eye.
The majority of people listen to us. So sharp ear.
Sharp as tack. I mean,
Have you sharpened your ears today?
Oh, man, I don't know. Kind of rolled out of bed and just went with what I had.
Oh, me too.
You know?
It's the weekend, dude. It
is.
I don't get up early for nothing on the weekend unless that something is like good food or something. So there's got to be a carrot on a stick.
I got up early this morning because we went and had breakfast. We do that on Saturdays. A lot of us.
It's food. See, I'd be all right with that.
It's the old man thing, you know, get up in the morning, go eat breakfast, and talk about all the things you used to do. But it's also a three fat truckers thing because three of us, one of the guys is our support staff, and then the two of us that actually live in Fort Wayne. So it kind of erodes into conversations about that stuff. But also Monday, we're being interviewed by a radio station down in Houston. Not far from you, I guess, relatively
Wait,
speaking.
so y'all are driving all the way down to Houston?
No, we're going to be on Zoom.
Oh,
so I
okay.
Had to learn Zoom.
Can you get the barbecue over Zoom? Does that work?
I can watch other people eat barbecue over Zoom.
That's
and
worse.
Frankly,
than just not
I don't think
having
I don't think I can handle that.
No, that's worse than not having it.
I think we're probably just going to do it without food. But
okay, all right.
Yeah, that's going to be a lot of fun. I think. I hope they didn't give us anything to prepare with.
Oh, they're just going to rapid fire you.
No question lineup. That's fine. Whatever. That's what I told them. I was like, if we're gonna improv, then you better be ready for three guys that don't watch what they say very often. You know. So, what you been up to, Leo?
All kinds of things, man. I don't know. What do you want first? The more recent stuff or the old stuff?
Let's start with the old stuff and build up to the most interesting stuff.
Fedora, man.
Fedora.
Yeah. So I know
that's
we were
one of
talking
them Linuxes, isn't it?
Yeah, it's one of them. We were kind of talking about it a little bit last time, but immutability won the day. But Fedora, I've had Fedora on a desktop, on my main desktop for a very long time. The one that I normally use Linux Mint on. And I use Linux Mint because it doesn't change, and I like that. It changes every maybe 6 months, and then you can decide if you want those changes or not. You can just leave them on the back burner if you want. But I feel like there's going to be one day where I'm just like, all right, Linux Mint's not for me anymore. I need something else. So I have another drive on that desktop, and all that lives on it is Fedora and all the software I would use on a day-to-day. So I basically boot into it once every couple of weeks or month and update it, make sure everything works, try to do some recordings, play with my video, stuff like that. Make sure it works. Because what I feel like the ripcord, when I pull the ripcord on Linux Mint, it'll probably be to Fedora. But I have been working on a different machine for a little while and kind of forgot about it. So I boot into it the other day. It was like 3 weeks ago. I boot into it, and I realize it's still on Fedora 35. And Fedora 35, end of life, I don't know when anymore, but a while ago, I think maybe December. So it's 6 months. It was about 6 months out of date, end of life by the time I looked at it again. So I'm like, what do I do? Do I just nuke and pave? That would be easy, and I wouldn't have to worry about anything. But I would have to reset up things like H.264 compatibility and stuff. That's like the one of the things I hate about Fedora. They are so open, right? Open FOSS, whatever, that you don't even get proprietary codecs like H264. So when I log into Plex, it doesn't work. Anyway, I finally decide we're just going to do a full upgrade. We're going to go to whatever Fedora upgrades me to. So I open up the Software Center, do updates, whatever it'll pull down. Looks like the repos are still up. And it's like, hey, do you want to upgrade to 37? But I knew that 38 was out. So I said, no, I don't want to upgrade to 37. So I find out how to do it in the command line and just slap Fedora 38 in there and see what it does. And
you're a madman.
Well, right. I mean, everybody talks about how good the Fedora upgrades are and how stable Fedora is for how bleeding edge it is. Hey, let's test it. Let's find out. How good is it? So I pop all the Fedora 38 stuff in there. I let it go. Downloads like 2 gigs of stuff. I mean, it's basically the new ISO is what it is. And then I let it go. I let it upgrade. It does its thing in the command line, and I reboot. And you get the, please wait Windows style updater where it just kind of does its thing. And it reboots in the middle of it. And then it starts, like the counter starts over. And I'm like, that's weird. And then it just sits at 0 for a while. And I think it was just because I was waiting on it. I think it was probably like 3 minutes total. But I'm staring at the 0 and I'm like, oh, it's dead. It's dead, Jim. And it goes. It starts going, starts moving along. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, I guess that means we're good. I boot into it and everything's fine. All the software was there. And I feel like a lot of that was because I installed a lot of the stuff through Flatpak. Kdenlive was in Flatpak. I think Audacity wasn't in Flatpak, so it got an upgrade. But pretty much everything else was, right? Like Discord, Telegram, Brave, all the things, right? All Telegrammy, or all Flatpacky. And I think that's a good thing. I think that's a fantastic thing. So Fedora 35 to 38, without taking any kind of middle ground or whatever, just straight to 38, turns out works just fine. So I think I'm a convert now. I think I'll be more likely to believe people when they say Fedora's been running for years and years and years, and I've never had an issue. On the server side, I feel like that's a little easier to do unless you're just running like a lamp stack, in which case I guarantee it'll break because SQL sucks.
Yeah. That's why you just run everything in Docker.
Yeah.
Just don't worry about it anymore.
Well, no, SQL sucks then too. You just have to be very meticulous about which Docker SQL you pull down. But the cool thing about that is that you're not dependent on a repo, like the system repo. So you can just pin SQL whatever 7, MySQL 7 or MariaDB 7. Or I don't even know what the versions are anymore. It's in a Docker Compose file over there, man. I don't know what it is. Whatever version it is, I'm probably not going to change.
I think it's like 5.7 is what WordPress has got their Docker Compose. Well, of course, they always say we recommend this Docker Compose.
Right.
I'm like,
but
yeah.
But that's the point, right? Because SQL kind of sucks. And well, the types of SQL, MySQL, MariaDB, I don't know, whatever they are, they just kind of suck because they make big changes between the major version numbers, which makes this version of PHP or this version of software incompatible with it. And I guess it's because you got to do database upgrades. Like you have to convert it to the new version and then you can link it up because otherwise you'll run into issues.
And I had that problem. I fixed it like in 20 minutes this morning with the Nginx proxy manager.
Oh, what'd you do?
They did a major update, and if you let it go to the next major release, then the web interface where you manage all the proxied connections is inaccessible, but then you roll it back. There was a lot of fixes online where it said go and make the Let's Encrypt folder 777. That's always a great idea.
No.
As well as Yeah, as well as doing a couple, changing permissions on a couple of things until it gets fixed.
Ew.
And I'm like, no. And then everybody else is like, yeah, I just reinstalled it and started from scratch. So I'm like, it's just a matter of rebuild, tear down the image, get rid of it, and get rid of all the volumes, because it creates some persistent volumes right there in the same folder as the
I like
as
that.
the
I do like that.
Right where they're at. It's in the home folder.
That makes backing stuff up super easy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, you gzip it so it preserves the file structure, and then you just splat it on a new system and then run the Docker Compose, and then all of a sudden everything works, and it's fantastic. I was on Lemmy. You know about this Lemmy? Do you know what Lemmy is?
I heard somebody talking about that just yesterday.
Probably me.
Well, I think it was one of the guys on Jupiter Broadcasting.
Oh,
actually,
yeah.
They were.
So for those not in the know, Lemmy is federated. So a part of the fedaverse, as in same as Mastodon, same as Matrix. Well, no, Matrix not federated. Same as Pixel Fed and PeerTube and yeah, stuff like that. So Lemmy lives on the same fedaverse as all that other stuff, and it is a Reddit clone.
Yeah, that's right.
Ish clone. Yeah,
that's right, because it's been the buzz has been about Reddit blocking the API access.
They did the same thing
something
as
like that.
Twitter.
They did with Twitter,
right?
Yeah.
Because that's why Mastodon got as popular as it did. It was always a nerd tool,
right.
And now it's a nerd and journalist tool. So I think Reddit's getting that treatment now because they decided to do the exact same thing when they said they weren't going to do the exact same thing as Twitter, which is block access to the API and then put a paywall in front of it, which is their prerogative, right? I mean, they can do that. That is fine. It is the amount of money they were charging for API access that was a little out of whack.
Yeah.
And it seemed to me, as it seemed to pretty much all of Reddit, that they were doing that just to kill off third-party apps and to just to siphon money off of people like Google and everybody else that was using the API. The people that could afford it, and then ousting the people that couldn't. So that meant all third-party apps are dying. So Apollo and Reddit is Fun and Bacon Reader and all these other ones that made Reddit usable on mobile. But I'm still in the camp that uses old Reddit. I use old.reddit.com. I cannot stand the new Reddit. It's abysmal, and it takes forever to load anything, and God forbid you get video content in your browser, like your GPU starts spinning up, and it's like, whoa, man, TikTok's not this bad. Come on. So anyway, Lemmy is the clone, and I was talking in one of the Matrix groups that I'm in right now, and what's funny about the Lemmy thing is that on Reddit, I've always been a lurker, always. And I guess it like a lot of the big, it's the whole world situations. I've always been a lurker. I'll like something here and there, I'll upvote it or whatever, but that's about it. Unless I knew very much what was going on, I wouldn't comment. But on Lemmy, it's different. I don't know why. Someone had said something. So the reason that it brought up, we were talking about Docker. Someone had asked the question, Ubuntu is hard. Are there any easier distributions to learn Docker on? And I think the general consensus answer was no. Ubuntu is probably about as easy as it's going to get, man. It is set up for, just getting the job done, I feel like, a lot of times.
Open Media Vault will give you like a web interface where you could get Docker images going. Then you've got kind of a layout there that will kind of, list them for you and give you some options for management. But everything you do in Docker, it's just worth the time to learn it the right way, because it's pretty simple. And once it's running, it's running.
Well, then you understand. I think if you play with it like that, I think then you understand how it hooks into Kubernetes and everything else.
Yeah.
Learning Docker is probably a good thing because it's not extremely difficult. I think what I mean by learn Docker is understand what a Docker Compose file does, know how to do that by hand if you have to, but really get into the nitty-gritty of like what is a volume, why do you store it, where you store it, and just get something up and running that requires more than one Docker container, right? Like something that has a database, something that has a web front end, and probably PHP, because I think those are all containerized. They're all their own thing. So Nextcloud, it's a terribly great example of of something to run in Docker to kind of get a feel for how that works.
But that's a good example of something that works. Probably is 100 times easier to set up in Docker than it is. And Lemmy, I think you referred to earlier that you do a little bit more on Lemmy than you would on Reddit. That's the thing about the Fediverse, though, isn't it? You feel like you're kind of a little bit more invested in it because you're part of it. You feel like you're part of that networking effect.
That's exactly where I was going with that. Because so that question was posed, and I didn't hesitate. I hit the reply button. There were already 5 or 6 replies in there. The post had been up for maybe an hour, and I didn't hesitate. Hit reply. And I said basically that, like, focus on Docker, man. Learn Docker, and it's portable. You can decide what platform you want later on. You can decide if you want a web interface, or if you want Portainer, or if you want to go straight to Kubernetes, or whatever you want to do. But start with Docker, and don't worry about the underlying Linux system, because once you learn Docker, they're all the same. It does not matter, because your tooling is Docker, and your system is extra. It's fluff. You don't have to worry too much.
It's just the thing providing the platform to put Docker on.
Yeah.
If you got nothing running on bare metal, then it absolutely doesn't matter what you're running, as long as it's a distro that's being maintained.
Yeah.
And I would argue that, Ubuntu is about as good of an option, especially if you sign up for one of your free 5-10-year extended support releases. You could slap that on there and just forget about it.
That's an egregious amount of time to give anybody for free. I mean, it is.
It absolutely
is.
Dude,
and Red Hat does the same thing with their dev subscription, where you can have like stupid amounts of servers that are in support, not just like the first 5 years of support, the full 10 years of support. It's crazy. It's not a CentOS situation. It's a full-on, this is it kind of thing. And it's 10 years is an egregious amount of time. I don't know anybody that even has hardware that long, except for me. Because I'm crazy like that. But at a certain point, it's like it takes too much power to run. I could actually save money on electricity if I upgrade.
But I imagine that the cases are probably all in the enterprise, or somebody's got a server at a business running, and you'll hire somebody to manage it or come in and deal with this like once in a great while. Maybe it's good to have something that'll just run forever on that.
It is enterprise stuff, or if you're really just intent on keeping the same server that you rented on Linode or something, because all their backend infrastructure will eventually upgrade, but your VM will still be there. Mm-hmm. And you take full advantage of the 10 years at that point, because I don't think they force any kind of changes on you or anything like that, other than your SSH port is open and it allows root access. Maybe change that.
They do. Linode is pretty good about emailing you, or if you've got some kind of notification set up, they let you know when your server is down or when you need to do a reboot or anything like that. It's actually, as far as these services go, it's pretty good.
Yeah, I host my WordPress is hosted, and my host will do that. It's like, hey, you're due for a PHP upgrade. We can leave you on the old one for $10 a month. And I'm like, no, I will be upgrading in short order. And then I thought it was going to be some kind of involved process. It was literally click PHP 8, click next, finish. And I was like, wait a minute. I didn't have to do anything? Wow, this $4 a month is totally worth it.
That's why I can imagine a lot of people say, oh, thank God, just here, take my money and leave me alone.
Well, the funny thing is I'm saving $1 because I was running it myself on DigitalOcean, and it was $5 a month for the droplet to run it all month, right? And I'm now paying $4 a month I get a free SSL certificate, which I already had that with Let's Encrypt, right? But this is, from the big boys. Ooh. And and they run WordPress for me, and I don't have to worry about when PHP upgrades and Ubuntu doesn't support that upgrade. And if I want to upgrade to the new PHP, I'm going to have to install it manually from the tar GZ that I grabbed from the website. And I'm like,
right,
that's icky. I don't want to do that. But right, it mostly just complains because Ubuntu is still maintaining it in the background, but it's scary. I don't want
Ubuntu did kind of, everybody thought I was nuts when I brought that up on the Discord when I ran an update. What was it, back in
the image
December?
magic thing.
Yeah, the image magic thing, and it was just an example of something that they can do to get you to sign up for that, because that's exactly what I did. They said, here, we need you to sign up for that. It's okay, you get 5 for free. Why not?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I guess I want the next image magic for some reason. So, which, it was a version that Canonical patched. They did the work of patching it, and so they were only offering that patch for the ESR members.
Right.
And so I'm not sure what would have happened if I wouldn't have done that. I guess I just wouldn't have got the upgrade, but I also felt like it would have kept bugging me.
It would have, but
So,
the answer to your question, what would have happened, is the same thing that's happened for every major Ubuntu release forever. Nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely nothing, because the thing that they're selling now, and the reason why I was upset that everybody was so pants on fire about it, is that Ubuntu is doing extra now, and they are offering that to you as a service, because the image magic in 1804 or 2004 or whatever, I don't know what you were running at the time, but
2204.
yeah, so the image magic in previous LTS releases just didn't get updated at all, because it was after the 5 years or after whatever. It just didn't. The community handled it. If it got upgraded, it was the community that was handling it. And same as in 2204, if the community puts forth a patch on Image Magic, that will come down to you still without having to sign up or without having to pay. But because Canonical put that patch forward, now, okay, you can get your 5 for free, but after that, we got to charge you for upgrading this patch or whatever. So, I don't know. It felt very Ubuntu's trying to change the internet now and how the way that Linux works or whatever. But that part always stayed the same. That part's still the same. It's the new stuff, the extra stuff they're charging for.
And we should stop being angry at Canonical for being a business. They're about as close to an open source, FOSS respecting company as anybody else out there. They have to do that and make money at the same time. So, I think a lot of people have just gotten used to being outraged at every single decision Canonical makes.
I think that's the internet. I think we like to pile on a lot, because it's this. I don't know. Somebody's mad and they made a good point, even though the point was wrong. And then people are convinced, and then you just pile on and pile on and pile on and pile on until, it gets really loud. It's only 84 people, and, 83 of them are confused and one was just wrong. But seems like a lot when it gets retweeted a bunch and then more people retweet it or boost it or whatever. It gets repeated, or it gets echoed onward by the people that are outraged at the outrage. Oh, right, yeah.
And then,
I just want to be part. Here's my pitchfork. I just want to be part. I want to be
or they
mad.
just want to be part of something. They feel like they're part of something grassroots and important. If they take on the big companies that are trying to ruin our FOSS experience.
Right. The answer is simple. You use something like Dev1, right? Everybody hated. Well, everybody. Those people hated when Debian went to systemd, and they took their ball and they went home, and that's fine. That's the whole beauty of it, man.
I implore people to go try to use Dev1 and make anything decent out of it.
People use Void a lot, and people on Arch choose not to use systemd. Like, there's a lot of it, but I don't know anybody in the industry that is clamoring to go back to writing init scripts. Not a single one. And these
That's why, I mean,
these are people that get paid.
So silly,
right? Like they get paid for their work, doing systems work. And I've never heard not one of them say, "Man, writing init scripts was the best way to do." I mean, and they could exist. I'm not saying that those people don't exist at all. It's just that I don't know any of them, and it would take a lot of convincing for me to be like, okay, I see your point. Maybe the control, but I like giving up some of that control so that I can get other things done faster. I think that's kind of where I sit on the whole thing.
Yeah, and I think it upset some of the neckbeards because it sort of broke the Unix philosophy thing of do one thing, and System D is interpreted by people as a one-stop shop for a lot of different solutions, instead of being one modular thing
Yeah, but Init had a stack.
That's outrage without,
Init had a stack
without
too.
taking the time to understand it. You know.
Init had its own stack. Yes, you could swap things out, but did you? I mean, did you when you installed Debian? Did you swap parts of Init out and replace it with other modules so that you could? I don't know. I never did, and But it's the same with System D. You can swap out System D modules for other things. Yes, some of those modules are tied into the others, but I won't say it's like full-on Unix philosophy, but I don't even know that that's really what was meant by the Unix philosophy. That's a conversation for another day. But System D is, in a lot of ways, very modular. So I don't know. That one's tough. That one's a tough one, and I don't think you're going to convince anybody.
I thought that was such a silly argument. And I remember at the time I was kind of playing around with Gentoo as well. Gentoo is still, as far as I know, System D is an option, but it's kind of a second-class option.
Really?
Not a distant second class, but yeah, they still use...
The RC something or another? What is it?
Yeah, OpenRC, I think, is what they use on that.
Yeah. So the same as...
They basically have two wikis. Well, it's a gross oversimplification, but...
Manuals.
It basically branches off, and, they'll ask you, okay, if you're going to use System D, click here. If not, keep going. That's what they kind of do, or at the time anyway, and so it kind of took you off in another direction, like it was... this is not the actual supported method of doing Gentoo. And I just don't know how they've... I'm curious as to how they've soldiered on since then, because you don't run into a lot of, Gentoo users, or at least not within the context that we talk about, Linux.
Yeah,
on other distributions.
It's not as pervasive as it used to be. I knew people way back in the day that would run it on their server, and updates were, you've really planned them. Like on Debian, you planned them, but they were mostly hands off. You have a database, right? They were mostly hands off, but the Gentoo guys, I mean, it was a plan. Like you had a plan for everything because there was a lot of compiling involved. You didn't always have to compile everything. I mean, Portage has been around for a long time, but the deal was you needed to be ready for pretty much any contingency because Gentoo was extremely hands-on. Everything plugged in together because you plugged it in together. So you got to know. It was guys that were very confident in their skills that ran Gentoo like that. And now
I could tell you one guy. I had a friend, still have the friend, but he was
but he still uses Gentoo, so I don't like him anymore.
No, he was he managed Windows servers at Indiana University in the library, the statewide library system, and his Unix counterpart had a makeshift bedroom set up in the server room.
Whoa.
Where he would sleep. Oh. Yeah, and he ended up getting fired because of this, because the the university didn't know it was happening, and he had the server room kind of trashed from living in it, sleeping in it. He was one of those guys, that were a little left of center, but he had to either sleep there because sometimes you can't just SSH into a server remotely to fix a problem if you don't even have a network connection to it, So
yeah,
and it was like you said, it was hands on. So he would, out of 365 days, I think he said he slept there in the server farm for probably 250 of those nights.
Wow, and this is a Windows shop?
Well, they had Windows servers, and then they had the Unix servers. I don't know what did what because I didn't know as much about it in those days.
I was about to say, Bill, you're putting it down right now. You're saying Windows is as hard as Gentoo.
I mean, we're talking the last time I was there with him and he showed me all that was back in like the Windows 7 days. So
yeah, okay. Oh, yeah.
There might have
server 2008, server 2003,
Oh, my.
somewhere. Well, if you're on Windows 7, sometimes I wonder about your server situation. Could be as old as 2000.
And I think that was exactly the case.
Yeah. And I mean, if you don't touch a Windows server, boy, it'll keep going. But the moment you look at it wrong, it's like, you know what? My version changed. How about crash?
I don't know why anybody puts up with it, honestly. What's the benefit?
Because it's got a GUI, dude. Because it's got a GUI, and that's what a lot of people learn.
Yeah.
And so it's what a lot of people know. It's extremely pervasive, man. It's everywhere. It's in your face. I think the only thing that's changing that now is Chromebooks and Google Drive. It took another multi-billion-dollar company to supplant a multi-billion-dollar company with the stranglehold that it had on the market, on mindshare for almost 3 decades. I mean, more than, right?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
In the 90s, it won, and it's just in the past few years that Google is winning. And I don't like either, but I don't know. I'd probably flip a coin for who I don't like more right now. But
Back to that Lemmy thing, though, is this something that you can self-host in a Docker container then, or?
Well, let me tell you something.
All right.
Yeah, so the other show that I do, Linux User Space, it's on break now.
Yeah.
But I've got probably one of the best admins in the country on the other half of that show, and so we were talking about it, right? I was like, do we need a Lemmy? Because it's getting a lot of play right now because of Reddit. And then like a couple hours later, it's like Dan came back and he was like, all right, well, let's test it then. Well, and by that he meant he had already stood it up. Everything was already working. He'd already logged in. He'd already gotten user authentication going. And what that meant was go try to sign in. And I was like, oh, so not only do we need a Lemmy, we have a Lemmy. And that was, I was taken aback. But logged in, got it all kind of figured out. And then, when you're standing in like, have you ever been standing, or you ever watched a show where they're standing in like an empty mall and the camera like just pans around and there's like all this stuff and all this space and you don't know what to do or what to think? Like that, I kind of got that feeling when I stepped in and I was like, I know there are big Lemmys out there. Where do I go?
Mm-hmm.
How do I touch them? How do I figure out what's what? Well, Dan had done some of that legwork too. There's lemmy.world, there's lemmy.ml, and there's bhaw.org. Those are 3 of the biggest ones. But when you check the Federation button, you get a big long list. There's like a list of Lemmys. You can Google it up too.
So are these? I'm sorry to interrupt you, but are these
No, please do.
Do you have this concept of like sub Lemmys? And
yes, they're called communities.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, we're naming it correctly. All right.
Yes. So in Reddit was the website, and there was like a main announcement forum.
Right.
But all the other content was in what was called a subreddit.
Right.
So some mod or some person would create a subreddit and they would name it something like Diablo 4, and that would now be a community for anybody that cared about Diablo 4, and you could post pictures and all that stuff, right? It's basically a forum at that point within Reddit. So Lemmy has the same thing. I don't even know that there's a Lemmy announcement thing, but in your Lemmy, because there's not just one Lemmy like there is one Reddit. There are multiple Lemmys, like in Mastodon. There's Fostodon and Fos whatever and Mastodon.social. Just like Lemmy, we have lemmy.linuxuserspace.show. So that is our Lemmy, and I am like Leo at Lemmy dot whatever. Anyway, so in that Lemmy, we have episodes for our episodes, and we have basically it's just news, but it's Linux and tech and open source and Linux adjacent news. We just dump it all there, and the conversation that happens underneath those posts happened underneath those posts. But then there's Federation, and you connect up your Lemmy to all the other Lemmys, and now with my account, Leo, on lemmy.linuxuserspace.show, I can go on to bha.org and upvote and post, and I can make posts in their technology community. I can do anything that I want to do. That's the beauty of the Federation stuff. And when we announced it, this is the coolest part. I think this is why I like Federation. This is why I think it's cool. We announced it on Mastodon and Twitter, but Twitter people don't care. Right. So on Mastodon, there was a lot of chatter about it. And the coolest part is that people that only have a Mastodon account subscribed to our communities. So I don't know if they can post. I think they can. They just reply to it on Mastodon. But they subscribe to it, and now they have a feed in Mastodon of everything that happens on Lemmy. And that's so cool. I think that's absolutely fantastic. So, yeah.
So I'm on their website right now, and it's join-lemmy.org.
Oh, yes. You can go there. That is like your first step. It's like join Mastodon.
Yeah.
And it gives you a lot of servers that you could join that might be of your interests.
So you've got to join it says you can get they've got a list of servers here that you can be a part of, and it looks like you can join, sign up. It seems to behave a lot like Reddit, and each one of these servers is way different in the way it looks and the way it's laid out, kind of. Well, not really.
Yeah, because if you're familiar with Reddit, there are still upvotes, there are still downvotes. Lemmy does show you the, I think it does show you the breakdown too, which is something Reddit stopped doing a long time ago. You can do video posts, picture posts, self posts, which is just text, and comments underneath. I mean, it's a forum, and I think what was funny about that is the reason I even considered joining or doing Lemmy at all was for that show. I was like, do we need a forum? Because not everybody's on Telegram, not everybody's on Discord, not everybody's on Matrix, and some people prefer the slowed down nature of a forum.
Yeah,
and that's what Reddit provided. We had a few people over there, but I think the nature of the podcast kind of skews toward people that would enjoy Lemmy more.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, it was kind of a natural. Yeah, we need that. Yeah, we got a forum, kind of Reddit style, and people like what they like and don't what they don't, and then the good stuff bubbles to the top, which is really cool. I like that better than a forum in that way.
So you brought up Matrix. One thing I've noticed about Matrix is that once you set up a Matrix server, they're kind of demanding in terms of equipment resources.
Yeah, that's why we don't host our own. That's why we don't host our own Mastodon either. The moment you federate and the moment you like something, well, now that whole entire chain is coming down to your server, and you have to cache it. So
I'm wondering if this is as resources intensive as something like Matrix is.
It isn't. I think
text.
that's the really not really. There's a lot of video. There's a lot of pictures and stuff like that. The when it gets intensive is not when you federate. The time it gets intensive is when you have a lot of users posting content to your local server. That's really when stuff starts ticking up. And so to start, it was just me and Dan, and then we decided the inner circle, the folks that are always around the community in various places. We'll christen them allowable on the Lemmy. But I think the intention is always to keep it very, very small. Because, I mean, if you just want to use Lemmy and you're going to go sub to a gajillion different things anyway, I mean, there's tons of servers that you could use that have way better infrastructure than our VPS. Yeah, I think people that have contributed in the past are people that will allow in.
That is really cool.
Yeah, keep it small, keep it cheap. That's the idea.
But if anybody that hasn't taken the time to wrap their head around the federated concept yet of social media, it's worth doing that, because as problems inevitably arise from centralized social media, you see these exoduses of people towards these federated options, just because it's almost as though it would be impossible to take this away from us.
Yeah.
The way that things are taken away from you or changed or paywalled or whatever in the centralized world, because you got this concept of, you're not a part, like Mastodon, for example. You are not a part of Mastodon, as it were. You are a part of Fostodon or Mastodon.social or whatever, server that you joined, and each one of these servers has its own code of conduct and rules for what you can do on there and the things you can say,
but they all connect, and that's the important
and they all
bit,
connect,
right?
and that's
like Bill at Fostodon.org can chat with Leo at Mastodon.social.
Right.
That's the coolest thing. I mean, it's email, man. Like I can send you a message if I need to send you a message, but it's more than email, because someone on Lemmy can talk to someone on Mastodon who is replying to someone on PeerTube, and that is the coolest thing to me. But
and thanks to the magic of open source and the fact that it's federated, the worst thing that anybody could do is just shut down that server on you. You can migrate to another server, and you really didn't lose anything.
Time. Yeah, if you have lead time, you can even migrate everything, your followers and everything else too. Right. So yeah, I mean, it is really cool, but there's a problem of I guess not having centralization, because I think that's the litmus for if it's going to get popular. I think one of the big reasons that Reddit got popular, that YouTube got popular, I mean, all of the federated answers we have, right? I think the reason that the main one got popular is because they were centralized, is because they were streamlined, and there wasn't a question of, well, okay, do I join lemmy.youtube.com or do I join? No, it was just YouTube, and you go and you sign up, and then you just start posting videos, and you don't ever have to think about where your followers are coming from, or if you need to ban a specific server because a lot of gross people are on that server or something like that, right? There was never a question. You took away a lot of those questions, and so it hit. What is the word, terminal velocity? That's not quite the word I want, but it's similar. Critical mass, that's the one. Hit critical mass much, much sooner. But I think it's going to happen in the. It already happened in Mastodon, Mastodon.social, and its siblings. They're all hosted by Gigaw, the Mastodon person. That is where most people sign up, because that is where most people are. And if you see that on their name or whatever, it's just easier. You go to mastodon.social, man, and you sign up. Easy. And same with PixelFed. You just go to pixelfed.org, I don't remember, and sign up. Or if it's one of the PeerTube instances, I don't even know any of them. I know Tilvids because, but that one's selective, so you gotta ask for that one. And then Lemmy, right? There's Lemmy.world. That is the most, and by a lot, it is the most popular one. So when people talk about Lemmy, I think a lot of times they're talking about Lemmy.world. So we're going to end up with that centralization anyway, but I think that's fine. I think
it's not centralization in the sense that big corporations are making rules for us, and we either have to follow those rules or we can't use this platform at all.
Yeah, but what if someone buys Lemmy.world? What are people going to do?
Start up their own, I guess. I mean, that's
right.
The option we got as...
Right, but are you going to federate with Lemmy.world?
Well, I mean, you got that choice, don't you? You know, you can completely block, I assume, the way you do on Mastodon. If you wanted to completely block an entire domain like that, you can.
But so, yeah, I don't know. I feel like you would just end up in the same situation where Lemmy.world is Lemmy, and then they go corporate, and then everybody's like, "No, we're leaving," and then you peel off 1% of the user base, which is just the whole entire thing is just 1% of the Reddit user base, right? So you're getting a 1% of a 1%, and you're like, "Fine, we're taking our ball and we're going home."
But the other 90% are bots and hateful people anyway. So I mean,
that's true.
Honestly, I don't think we've lost anything.
I think that's why Lemmy's so cool right now. I think that's why Lemmy is punk rock.
Yeah.
I think that's why I can comment on Lemmy without a second thought, which, you know, to bring it back to what we were talking about originally. I think that's the cool part of it, just simply because it's people that care about the subreddit there. Well, be careful about the community they're in Lemmy, or on the Lemmy instance. And so it feels organic, and that makes me feel like I can contribute more. Even if it's not a good idea, or if it's just saying something stupid, I feel like I can do that a whole lot more.
Because we have the technology. We can make them stronger, faster.
Yeah. So Lemmy's cool. I like Lemmy. Feels very nice and organic.
Well, I'm convinced. I don't know that I'll spin one up. I might try it just to see.
Just go join Lemmy World, man.
Yeah.
Lemmy.world. Go and browse around a little bit, because if you were any sort of semi-regular on Reddit, you kind of got blasted in the face with the front page and are familiar with some of the subreddits, right? They've been mirrored. Lemmy has those same subreddits in spades, as a matter of fact. There are multiple of those subreddits on different Lemmy instances too. So, and I keep saying subreddits, right? But
I think some of them have just completely migrated over to Lemmy, you know, some of the ones that I used to look at a lot. Because I did like you did. I just kind of lurked. And once I found that it was a subreddit where I was getting useful information from,
you stayed. And
just
kind of stayed.
And sometimes it'd be something you'd get a notification about once every 4 months. And you're like, oh, yeah, I forgot I was into that 4 months ago.
Reddit was my social media of choice.
Yeah.
And now it does seem like the stuff I liked about Reddit is on Lemmy now. So I'll probably do both until one really emerges as the victor. But I don't think I could ever really let go of Lemmy anyway, even if I decided Reddit was where I wanted to stay, even after all this craziness. I can't let Lemmy go, because it turns out a lot of the user base, a lot of our listener base, liked it. And we saw, as soon as we announced it, I mean, we saw a ton of chatter about it, a ton of people subscribe. So, you know, it's somewhere people want to be. So I want to be there. It's kind of cool. And I just like Lemmy.
Right on. Well, we got a little bit of feedback. I think we probably ought to move on to that.
All right, let's cover that. Why not?
So we had an email. We'll do the email first, and then we had a little bit of interaction on the website itself.
The federated email, huh?
Federated email. It's like our own little thing right there on the website.
I know.
Thanks, WordPress. Okay, this is labeled non-actionable fan mail from NPR fan.forlife.
Oh, and I've got something to say about this one, too.
It says, Dear podcasters, I just wanted to thank you for working for free. You're welcome.
We do that.
Thank Leo for fixing his audio level. I love that you got blamed for it, not me.
I know. It's not even my fault.
I wanted to complain like that other guy who downloads the MP3s and decided
Who was also wrong?
and decided it would be rude to do so since I benefit from this premium knowledge for free. I can't tell if that's a bit of a stab or
It might be. It might be. I don't know that we've said anything useful so far.
It's hard to say. It goes on to say, I promise to pay you as soon as I find a gift card that Patreon will accept. I hope you got a Chipotle card or something laying around. That was a good introduction.
I will take a Chipotle card, man.
Oh, man.
I will do that.
I will eat that stuff until can't move.
Here's what you do. Whatever you were going to contribute, put that on a Chipotle card, or really any food, honestly, and then just email us the code. And we'll punch it in the website
work.
and go pick it up.
There is no reason why that won't work.
You power the show by burritos. That's how it works.
And then finally he says, that was a good introduction to the immutable OS concept. Don't tell anyone because it's embarrassing, but I basically use Git as a file system. Signed,
Hold
NPR
on.
fan.
When he said, don't tell anyone, it's a good thing nobody listens to this show.
I know. Trust me, NPR fan, we will not tell a soul unless we get the chance. So, yeah, to respond, the audio level was not Leo's fault per se. He was giving me a flack that was a little bit lower level than mine and Leo's, and it just was not compressing well with the tools that Audacity came with.
Yeah. So it was some of my fault because I was recording this in a way that worked with my workflow. But yeah.
But then enter it's called Chris's compressor.
Yeah.
But you downloaded it. It's called Compression Dynamics, which is a third party, I guess, Nyquist plugin for Audacity. And if anybody needs something like that, go check it out because it's magical. I don't understand why I can't get the built-in compressor to do that in that way, but
it's just not that smart. I think the
No.
built-in compressor is slightly dumber.
Yeah.
But don't worry, Chris's compressor is kind of dumb too. It does weird things if you're not paying attention. So they're all a little dumb. You have to tweak them.
But it makes everybody sound like they're right there in the same studio, and I've been using it on all three shows and that. So yeah, hopefully moving forward, the audio issues will be sorted. The immutable OS concept, you would have to be under a rock to not hear the buzz about immutability and that going on here lately, and most of that is stemming from Canonical's choice to they announced that they're working on a all snap Ubuntu desktop, and that got everybody
Bill, that's the other thing.
up.
I wanted to have that conversation we were having in Discord. We're gonna have to save that to the next show.
Yeah,
because that one was such a good conversation. And to prime everybody, this was. Let me see if. We got talking about NVIDIA. That's it fired me up, as you might know on this show. Talk a lot of trash about NVIDIA, man.
just got no business using it. I know that now.
Oh, yeah. It was the rel dropping support for LibreOffice and then forcing the Flatpak thing. But there's a lot of nuance to that. We were just talking about people getting pants on fire about things that don't really affect anybody. And even if they do, it's not for years that it really comes into play. So that's something that I wanted to talk about because Bill and I had a really long conversation about that in Discord. I'd like to convert that to the podcast.
Yeah, we'll get into that in the next episode.
Yeah, that'll come. That'll come.
It's an important conversation because I think some people, and myself included, kind of gloss over the idea that, well, these things are never going to move forward. They're never going to get the attention they need in terms of development until we make this at least a standard in the distant future. As long as it's just one more thing that exists, it's not going to, some of these edge cases are not going to get worked out. And if we make this a standard, then I say standard. If we make it the goal for the future, then more development will go into it, and a lot more problems that are in the containerized format will get worked out. So that, I think, that is a positive thing.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll say on it is if you like immutability, you should like what Red Hat did.
Yeah.
It's going to help you out more than anybody else.
But I think it'll also it'll improve the experience with Flatpak, snaps, and whatever else.
That's the push. This is the same thing that Ubuntu did with Firefox. Red Hat's just doing it with LibreOffice, and everybody's mad about it.
Work out the problem. I mean, some people don't want they just plain don't want the Android experience on their Linux desktop. And to those people, I
Too
say,
bad.
well, I don't think regular Linux is going to go away anytime soon. It's open source. People are always going to have the option.
Debian exists, Bill.
Yeah.
You're right.
It's not the regular Linux is always going to be there for us. I think for companies that have a product that they have to sell, like Canonical and Red Hat, this is probably an obvious next step in the evolution. We do have a little bit more feedback on the website on episode 8, the Immutable Leo.
Hold on, before we go into that, NPR fan, I want to know more about your Git file system. How do you what? How?
Yeah, we need technical schematics
details.
and
I
details.
won't tell anybody though.
We won't tell anybody that doesn't watch the show. Yeah, on episode 8, NPR fan, I think it's the same person.
Is it?
Commented, yeah. Well,
Did they add Git info?
No, unfortunately not.
Fine.
This is going to be our thing for a while. We need to milk that information out of this person. Yeah, get with us. Grats on selling adverts. They aren't annoying at all compared to those of other podcasts. See, it's well established that this person is sarcastic, so I'm wondering.
Yeah. But hold on, what would you rather me do? Go to linode.com/LinuxOTC to get $5 off of your next VPS. Do you know what you can do with Linode? Bill, you use Linode. Tell me how you use No, we're not doing that. If we're going to do that, I'm going to get the ChatGPT bot to take my voice and then just do that for us. I don't know if I want to read
people
copy.
are doing that.
I don't want to read
fun,
copy, man.
But yeah.
I know, but let's just do a whole podcast of that. That would be hilarious.
Just let them, we can just sit back and watch the machines be us.
It's going to be devastating because we'll like double our listenership on that episode.
I can just turn this thing off and just let ChatGPT run in the cloud, and
that's it.
Gosh, I can just do nothing. Then there was Matthias. He wrote on the same episode, "Thanks for your show. I listen with Podcast Addict on Android. I don't have ads. Is there any other way to support you? Kind regards."
We've established Chipotle gift cards so far.
Anything having to do with food, because that's something that we will spend our money on either way.
I never even thought about that, though. You could, just email the show, because you can go on Amazon or some other online merchant, and then buy a gift card, and then just send the gift card over email. I didn't even think about that as a way to, throw $1 at somebody or something.
And then if you're just ordering it online, then, as opposed to, I don't think you could take that into the store. But then again, I don't know.
But then the burrito would be cold because I don't look at email that much, and it'd be like, your order's ready, and it was that was 3 days ago.
Well, no, you could take that email, you could take that number off the email, and then just use it to do an online order.
Oh, I see. Yeah, yes,
and then go pick it up. Yeah. So this is an
I was
option.
in a totally different scenario. Yeah.
Right. Just email us all the food gift cards you can find.
So that is an option.
Do a little research, though, because Leo's got Whataburger and I don't, and I've got...
Whataburger's fantastic. Actually, send Bill a Whataburger gift card, so then he has to come down to have Whataburger. That's...
See, that's some next level thinking right there.
Okay, but that brings up a good question because we were talking about this before the show about how to do it for real.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I want to put it to you, dear listener, dear watcher. That sounds kind of creepy.
You can watch
We're
me,
looking
it's fine.
at a couple of options, if not all of them. We're thinking of LibrePay.
LibrePay?
The same.
The one and the same, yeah.
That's what I said.
Oh, yeah, me too.
Maybe
There's an extra
Patreon.
E in there. Yeah, Patreon.
Well, yeah, but the British say aluminium. They added
Yeah, they probably say Patreon too.
Completely another syllable to a word. So maybe it's time we start doing that.
Yeah.
Give us your input. I mean, if enough people are already on Patreon, and that's the option that works for more people, or if it's I'm also sensitive to the open source sort of way of thinking as well as anybody, I suppose. And we might just set something up on all these.
Yeah, I as soon as the question came up, the first thing I couldn't remember its name. First of all, but after I figured out what its name was, the first service that came to mind was LibrePay. Because of the nature of the show, the things that we talk about, the culture around the things that we talk about are just free and open. LibrePay seemed like the place to be. And I don't know the kinds of ways that you can give LibrePay money to give us money, but I suppose it would be more open than before, right? Here, look. Let me see. Let's. How do we give LibrePay money? How do we do that? How? I saw PayPal somewhere.
Let's see. You create an account.
Here it is. Donations to LibrePay can be paid using credit card, so Visa, MasterCard, American, blah, 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 a Eurobank account, or a PayPal account. Okay, so that doesn't solve NPR fans' problem. What about F-Droid? Do they do anything special? No, they do not accept PayPal. Mobian, how about Mobian? They do accept PayPal, but it seems to be the same all the way across.
Just
so
good old GitHub. I mean, can't we just do GitHub sponsors or anything like that?
Okay, I had a really good idea, I think. What if we use the open source ChatGPT caption software called Whisper to create AI-generated captions for the show and post them on GitHub, and then let people sponsor us on GitHub. But it's probably still PayPal. So I don't know. I don't know if there's an easy way to stay off off of the main banking system besides accepting something like crypto.
I was just gonna say.
I know. I saw it. I saw it come across your face.
Yeah.
I knew you were going to say crypto.
We're going to have to set up. We're going to have to get on, what is that? Lightning. The Lightning Network. And then start taking.
I only accept BitConnect. BitConnect! Have you ever seen that? That is amazing. You need to go see that. It's this one guy, super duped, but running around on the stage, really, really excited about BitConnect. And that's what he does. It's the BitConnect, just real loud. And everybody's just clapping behind him. It's like, wow, this he's fired up, man. Yeah, it's worth just Google BitConnect video. You'll see
just
it.
For a bit of the laugh, I guess.
Yeah, of course.
Oh, you know what? Give us your input, everybody. We'll come up with something, but we'll need to take a little time to think about it, I think, because we want to do something that works. But at the same time, we want to be respectful to the things that are important to us.
Yeah.
So, yeah, watch this space. We got to get out of here, though. I got to go get retooled for Mintcast.
And you thought it was going to be a short show. I told you I could talk.
Man, I'll tell you what. Imagine if Leo. Imagine if Norbert was here. Yeah, so... write the show, show at linuxotc.org. You can comment directly on the website. We do have a Mastodon LinuxOTC at fustodon.org.
I got to sign into that so I can post memes.
Yeah. Get something going on there. Right now, the only thing on there is just show announcements, because Twitter took away that ability for WordPress, for what's the WordPress thing?
Yeah, the Jetpack.
Jetpack, to be able to... Well, Jetpack probably could have kept doing it if they would have paid the, $5 million a month fee to have access to the private API.
That's cheap.
That's a bargain.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, get with us one way or the other. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Until then, I've been Bill.
And I'm still Leo.
He is. See you, everybody.